Okay, let's see what to-do list. Go to work, go to work, go to work, go to work. Oh, well, that's not right. One for today's episode for this uploading schedule. There we go. Collecting the most of the forms of those Patrick socks that we're about to be collecting throughout the majority of the game so far, so that's what I'm gonna do. Anyway, hey, what's up everybody? It is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I'm back for yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and let's not forget the iOS versions of the game. So today, yeah, that's basically how this goes, basically. So, yeah, before I get into more details about the forms of today's episode, last time we have basically managed to complete done with everything for the sake of the forms of Sand Mountain, and also we did manage to beat Robo Patrick throughout, and also we did manage to collect some more golden spatulas due to more, you know, objectives to complete in the forms within the Bikini Bottom hub world itself. And also on top of all that stuff though, we've managed to obtain the final golden spatula located in the forms within the downtown Bikini Bottom. So as a result, yeah, we actually did that pretty swell, I have to say. So today, for this video, is the fact that we're about to be revisiting the previous worlds again, specifically Jellyfish Fields, along with the forms of downtown Bikini Bottom, Goo Lagoon, as well as Rock Bottom, due to the forms of how the fact that we still need to collect some of these remaining of those, well, Patrick socks in general. And afterwards though, we can basically move on to the next world, which some people might still seem to say that the next world coming up is their least favorite world in the game, probably because of the forms of, if you're following through our Let's Play of the original version of the game, back in 2 years ago, you know exactly what the worlds we're about to be entering into next, which appears to be, of course, Kelp Forest, in this case their least favorite world in the game, just because it's all labyrinthy, and, well, to be fair, for the forms of the remastered remake, at the very least, it somewhat feels a bit more, I would say, tolerable in comparison to the forms of how it does in the original version though, at least as far as for my personal taste anyway. But we'll get around onto it if we managed to stumble across that particular world again, but this time within gorgeous HD, with some pretty visuals as far as I'm concerned with that specific stuff worth noting for. So, but I digress. So, yeah, today's day is, of course, the, I think it's the 5th of July today, in this case in 2022 today, so I get the strong sense of feeling about the fact that I think we've only got about, specifically, I would say, 16? No, wait, it was roughly about 15 days left until the 10th anniversary of the release of Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance for the Nintendo 3DS, for the sake of the forms of the European country, because, well, I still even remember, well, despite I get the game quite late, just because, well, back in the day, we don't have enough money for it, and second, that we keep on buying retro games here and there, including, you know, the Sega Dreamcast system, along with the PlayStation games, and all the other jazz. But as a result of that kind of stuff, though, I think that's as far as I can usually try to describe about this, for the sake of the forms of this majority of this whole, well, you know what I mean. So, there's some things worth mentioning for the sake of the forms of, for these uploading schedules alike, though, is the fact that since that Maxi has almost going to be finishing up with the forms of the Super Mario Sunshine portion of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars during at some point, maybe potentially speaking, he might able to actually finish up the entirety of Super Mario Sunshine from the Super Mario 3D All-Stars game during at some point in this particular upcoming week. Or no, should I say, this particular coming week. Specifically, you know, tomorrow, along with Friday as well. Sorry if I able to actually confuse you guys, because it's been about, I would say 5 or... is it 5 days ago? Yeah, I think it's like 5 days ago since we actually last played this, especially after the events at the very end of June. So because of this though, yeah, I do apologize for that particular commentary. It gets a little bit muffled up at points, so I do apologize for that. But that's only mainly because hopefully at some point or another, then I should probably able to actually finish this particular, well, Let's Play itself, possibly by the forms of some point in this month in particular. Well, it's hard to tell at this point. Although, to be fair though, about the fact the matter is though, for those of you who are able to be waiting for some more parts of the forms of the Simpsons Hit and Run, well, it is definitely confirmed about the fact of what that particular Let's Play is about to be able to continuing on. It's going to be probably at some point in this month, so either way though, we're not exactly sure when though, but stay tuned for that, especially noticeable because, well, fundamentally speaking, now we're pretty much almost done with the forms of those really great games so far when it comes to doing Let's Plays department. Although I'm sure enough that Maxi, he just somehow managed able to do like multiple uploading schedules for the sake of the forms of Wii Party, despite the fact that the amount of views count wasn't all that ridiculously high in comparison to the forms of how it does it in Mario Party 8, because seriously, I think that Mario Party 8 Let's Play so far, specifically when it comes to the forms of the actual, a much more better version of that particular Let's Play, has actually gone pretty dang well, especially noticeable because, well, it seems totally obvious about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, that... Actually, no way, it was actually Pac-Man that he just somehow carry on doing Wii Party and stuff like that. So I do apologize with the forms of my commentary. It's a little bit messy at this point today. Well, that's only mainly because I'm just felt a little bit slightly tired in addition to that. So... Oh, and by the way, something's worth mentioning is the fact that since that overall we've now actually finally learned ourselves every single move throughout the game, specifically for SpongeBob's case, that now we can able to actually obtain the next two of those Patrick socks, if you can clearly tell already, from the likes of the forms of in Jellyfish Fields, because obviously we've already obtained one by able to actually getting a strike or a spear from the actual bowling activity and stuff like that. And there's also another Patrick sock you need to get by, you know what I mean, just trying to able to actually activate the bubble missile move. And as a result, yeah, it's overall pretty easy, all things considered, but if you're trying to able to obtain these particular, well, socks in general. So because of this though, yeah, and another thing I would like to classify for mentioning about that specific stuff though is the fact that, well, I would say specifically later on throughout this whole month that it will mark the 2-year anniversary of the release of Paper Mario The Origami King. Despite the fact that it came out on the worst year we've ever experienced, well, at least I still find the game to be good. Nowhere near as amazing as the forms of the first two games in my opinion, because the first two games are a timeless classic. And as a matter of fact though, is the fact that maybe we can probably able to actually do, in fact, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys wanting to let me able to actually do some Mario RPGs until specifically next year? Because, well, it's pretty obvious about the fact that we need to able to get out of the way for certain party games, as well as the forms of some of those kart racing genre and stuff like that. Well, mind you, we still need to able to consider trying to able to actually do, well, suffice to say, I think we should probably able to still carry on doing, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, whilst the actual DLC thing is all set. Well, I think we should probably save that up and join at some point, possibly into next year, or 2024, depending on the forms of the actual release schedule from those specific DLC packs for the likes of the forms of that, you know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, as far as I'm concerned. But I digress. So anyways, let's use these watermelons to stack them into one and the other, and able to get another Patrick sock that I suppose I accidentally ignored that whenever I first got there. So anyways, I think we've only got one more Patrick sock left until we basically move on to, well, suffice to say, downtown Bikini Bottom, where we can only find one more item throughout the whole entire important thing about the forms of trying to collect everything, which I have no idea why I'm saying things a little bit weirdly at this point today. But I promise you guys that during at some point on this particular first day coming up, then I should probably able to make my commentary get a little bit more, slightly better than the today's commentary goes. But either way though, at least you can still able to see the actual gameplay footage, which is always nice. Unlike, you know what I mean, Maxi 10, that he refuses to able to get the capture card, and thus not to mention though, his Let's Plays are downright terrible. So, Anyway, so before you get into downtown Bikini Bottom, let me just quickly go over to Goo Lagoon for a bit, because obviously that much like downtown Bikini Bottom, there was that one in particular Patrick sock I still need able to try to obtain. So either way though, hopefully we'll try to find out as much as we can. So I just found that really odd that I somehow managed to ignore these Patrick socks as soon as I'm able to actually keep moving. Well, it's possibly understandable for the sake of the phones are trying to able to get the latest, you know, upgrade movesets during later down the road. But either way though, sometimes I always get a little bit mesmerizing when it comes to likely missing something, so. But at the very least, we've pretty much completed Goo Lagoon right now, so because obviously we've now able to obtain all those collectibles, so I think we should now move on to downtown Bikini Bottom, and we should probably hit on to this particular rooftop area because, well, I think suffice to say, I think we should probably be able to find the last Patrick sock on that specific rooftop segment. However though, it does only require SpongeBob for this, because obviously Sandy cannot able to actually do ground pound moves, so yeah, that begs the question for this point. So anyway, I should probably be able to get into more details about the forms of those recent news recently, ever since in about a couple of weeks ago, especially noticeable after the events when Maxie has totally forgotten to mention about in the likes of the Super Mario Sunshine game portion on Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and also say applies to Pac-Man has also forgotten to mention about this as well during the course of Wii Party, including myself when it comes to this particular game. Actually, let me go ahead and double check on anything else. Yeah, let's head back onto Rock Bottom, because obviously we've only got one more sock left until before we move on to the well, suffice to say, everyone else's least favorite world in the game, which is of course Kelp Forest, which, yeah, it's pretty much obvious. So yeah, I do apologize for that particular sniffy nose for this point today as well, but
so bad after all.
Either way, let's just go ahead and find the last Patrick sock. So it could be around here somewhere though, but hopefully I'll try my best able to. Oh god! I didn't make it. Hi, that was a bit disappointing for able to not make into that leaps of faith right here, but still, it can't be felt a bit too imprecise for my liking. But either way though, it knows what it is. So I think the best solution I can think of is to warp in here, so just in case I can able to actually make things a bit faster when it comes to travel. So despite what the forms of those, you know, unpredictable loading times in this version of the game, but either way though, it knows what it is when it comes to likely making the actual length feels a bit slightly more lengthy than the forms of how it does in the original, so. Alright, so we better make sure we don't get caught by that sleepy robot, but thankfully we somehow managed to able to sneak past through it. Is it somewhere like over there? Mind you, it has been about a couple of days, even especially noticeable for a couple of weeks since we actually last went there, because obviously after the events of that Cyprus holiday we've already went into, and I had a lot of fun with it, which I'm sure that I've already mentioned about that, and especially noticeable that Maxie has already mentioned about this in the Super Mario Sunshine game already for the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, so yeah, that begs the question for this point. So anyways, let's go ahead and slowly walk towards that robot, and oh dang it. Okay, that's fine, because as far as I'm aware, that's just an underwear. Okay, that's okay, I guess, especially noticeable for, you know, just get your health and everything, but I'm very curious of what's beyond around here. Oh, there we go. So at the very least we did found the last Patrick sock, so yeah, that basically concludes, well, Rock Bottom. So I think we should probably now go back onto, you know, let's go talk to Patrick right here, so that way we can able to get another golden spatula, and hopefully we can able to actually hop right into the next world, which is of course Kelp Forest. So even then though, I'm not looking forward to able to doing Kelp Forest again, especially noticeable after doing with the original version, but still, we just have to able to cope with this, I guess, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, you probably already know what I'm trying to say for this point. So, anyways, let's do some bit of a rolling action here. Well, despite I somehow accidentally skipped Patrick completely, but then I talked to him and we got 66. 66 golden spatula so far, which is also very cool as far as this is concerned. Oh, and somehow, another thing I would like to mention about this, unfortunately though, there are some bad news when it comes to the forms of Mario Strikers Battle League football game as a result. Although I'll get into more details about that during whenever we get into the, well, you know what I mean, Kelp Forest, the worst world in the game, or should I say my least favorite world in the game, because it might be confusing at times, so... Anyways, let's get this world done and over with.
Here we are in the Kelp Forest. An interesting area with many sights to see, for those that don't get hopelessly lost first.
So here we come to ourselves the forms of the next set of robots to take down, which you can either just somehow manage able to do a bubble bash for the majority of it, or you can just simply just use the bubble rod and then just, you know, just keep on using the actual, like, well, it's hard to explain because it's been, you know, quite a long time since I actually known these enemies, so either way, I think we're most able to bump into Mrs. Puff again, ever since in the forms of Sand Mountain, so let's see what she was actually been up to for these days. Well, after, like, exploring certain places first of all, so specifically, if we try to use the bubble ball right here, and boom, there we go, we got a strike by getting ourselves another Patrick sock, so yeah, we're almost done collecting these things, so, but we are slowly getting there.
Hi, Mrs. Puff. Driving class isn't out here today, is it?
No, SpongeBob. Why do you say that? Do you think we'd have class out here just to hide from you? How silly. I'm just, gathering twigs for the winter. Yes, that's it.
Oh, can I help? I have a merit badge in twig gathering.
Actually, you can help with something else. These robots showed up and scared all the students, campers off into the forest. Before the ranger arrives, someone needs to go out and find them.
I'll help you find them, Mrs. Puff. I'm the sponge for the job.
Thanks, SpongeBob. I'll make sure to give you a nice reward when you've found all of them.
So we need to find I think it's like roughly 6 of those campers or something like that. Well, then again, it's been about 2 years ago since I actually last played this game in addition to that, so... Anyways, let's get to the forms of the unfortunate news when it comes to the forms of Mario Strikers Battle League football game. Nothing to do with the game's fault or anything, like, I still find the game really fun to play, despite with the lack of content. But unfortunately though, that particular game sold poorly, which is not a good sign, especially noticeable after the success of, you know, Mario Strikers Charge Football on the Wii, because obviously that the Wii was actually the best-selling game of consoles of all time during the forms of in the 2000s era, and on top of all that stuff though, that Mario Strikers Charge Football is actually without doubt one of the best reviewed scores in terms of Mario sports titles, along with the forms of, well, you know what I mean, Mario Power Tennis, along with the forms of, Mario Superstar Baseball, if I recall correctly, and, well, for the majority of the GameCube era when it comes to Mario sports titles, like, I can totally understand why that most people seem to... Are you kidding me? Screw you, Knockback. Screw you. Anyway, so, yeah, it's kind of sad about the fact that Mario Strikers Battle League Football sadly does not sell very well, which I'm guessing it's not the game itself that's the problem, it's the lack of content that's causing the sales numbers to able to get so lowered. Like, why the hell did Nintendo decide able to continue that tradition when it comes to that godforsaken free updates kind of syndrome? Like, that happens every time when the actual Switch lifespan exists. Like, I know for the fact that we already got some of these games that does manage able to support free updates kind of syndrome. Like, we have Mario Tennis Aces and Mario Golf Super Rush, Kirby Star Allies, Nintendo Switch Sports, and Mario Strikers Battle League Football, which, again, it just bears repeating about the fact that most people dislike the aspect of when the game itself is unfinished. Well, at least the actual game does look nice, and especially noticeable about the fact that the animations looks really top-notch, especially noticeable after the release of Luigi's Mansion 3. That the expressions are so over the top, but it's just a shame about the fact that the game didn't sell well because of the lack of content, which is very bad news for our part, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, it's just kind of unfortunate, you know? But I'm sure that, you know, exponentially speaking, that we will definitely get some more characters in the actual free update kind of thing. I'm sorry, this whole free update thing is just about ranting in my opinion. I do understand why that a lot of people hated this, especially noticeable about the fact that if they start to lose interest with that game, then obviously the actual free update thing just, you know, sneak in behind our back. And as a result, yeah, there's not much else I can say about this godforsaken free updates kind of syndrome. Yeah, I think we need to find 6 of those campers. So, yeah, I was totally right after all. So, yeah, I guess that begs the question for this point. So, but exponentially speaking also is the fact that I believe we've only got about 3 more days to go until the Klonoa Fantasy Revive series is going to be releasing on multiple platforms. Like, I think so far that I've managed able to pre-order not 1, but 3 versions of the game, much like the forms of how it does it on, you know, Sonic Colors Ultimate, along with Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and heck, let's not forget about the forms of Banana Blitz HD, Sonic Mania Plus, and especially noticeable with Sonic Forces, because I obviously do enjoy those kinds of games. Well, despite the fact that Sonic Forces is still pretty much a mixed bag, Sonic game to ever sort of light for the sake of the forms of trying to releasing it, but exponentially hopefully that Sonic Frontiers will be a lot more better than it should be. Well, despite the fact that the first impressions back in about, I can't believe it's been about a month ago since they actually revealed the gameplay footage for the sake of the forms of Sonic Frontiers, since about a month ago, despite the first impressions is all over the place, like some of the animations are a bit off, as well as the forms of the actual, the model of Sonic looks right out of the forms of Sonic Forces, which some people might not like it that much, but usually relatively speaking though, I might be alright with this, especially noticeable because, well, I'm still very excited to be able to see Sonic Frontiers in action for the actual gameplay footage and stuff like that, so, anyway, so, yeah, because also another thing I would classify for mentioning about the forms of something related to, oh shoot, I think I need to acquire Patrick on this because, well, you know what I mean, he was the only one he can able to actually just you know, carry objects and all that stuff, so I think I was thinking about the forms of artifact that, well, first of all, let's go ahead and find another camper right here. So, at the very least, we got the checkpoint, so that should be good to go. And, oh, okay, I totally forgot about that. So, anyway, so let's go ahead and bouncing onto those specific brown leaves and stuff like that. And I think exponentially, dang it, I didn't reach for that particular brown leaf. Oh, that's just great. So, anyway, speaking of which though, is the fact that when it comes to using Patrick as a playable character, I think this will actually be the final world to able to actually allow you to play as Patrick, because, well, as far as I'm aware, until whenever we get to the Flying Dutchman's Graveyard, along with the forms of SpongeBob's Dream, we'll be playing as both SpongeBob and Sandy throughout the whole entirety of the forms of the next 2 worlds, I can assure you for this point. So, anyways, let's switch over to Patrick now to do the next objective, so let's see how this goes, hey?
Hi, Mr. Krabs. What are you doing here?
Ahoy, Patrick! I'm trying to return 3 stone tikis to this pedestal so I can get to the kelp cave across that bridge. There could be customers in there! I saw 3 tikis scattered around this area, but me old brain couldn't figure out how to get them back up here.
Can I try?
Sure, why not? I need a good laugh. There's a golden spatula up there for you if you succeed.
Oh boy, Mr. Krabs. I'll see what I can do.
Okay, so we need able to deliver those tiki stones in the corresponding paths. So, yeah, that basically summarizes this mission. Can be, I'm not gonna lie, pretty tricky. But, regardless of everything else though, one thing I'll give this version some credit for, than the forms of how it does in the original version, despite the fact that, dang it, I died again. Gee, it didn't help about the fact that there's no magic card show from the likes of the forms of, Club SpongeBob episode, because, well, I remember that episode so well, that basically, you know, the fact that when SpongeBob and Patrick are about to be able to do a, well, let's just say, I don't know what you would call it, because it's been such a very long time since I've actually seen this episode, since it's one of those DVD compilations that you can get, but as a result of that kind of stuff though, I do remember that one thing, that the only, my favorite part of that episode is the fact that how, the magic conch shell just refuses to able to grant, you know, Squidward's wishes and stuff like that, because, you know, obviously, since when Squidward was having a, some hunger issues and stuff like that, and then basically he just says, like, should I have a spaghetti or a turkey? And then the actual conch shell just goes like, neither. And also that he says like, how about the soup? I don't think so, as far as what Magic Conch Shell just managed to say. And then, yeah, I just found that particular scene to be very hilarious because, well, I just found that so humorously charming, especially noticeable that that's the reason why the older seasons, specifically 1 through 3 seasons, are by far the most charming seasons throughout the whole entire show. Because unlike the future seasons though, sometimes it just feels a bit screwed up by the forms of screwed up character development. Even worst case scenario is the fact that on certain specials, specifically Atlantis SquarePants, that some people might find this to be one of the weaker specials in the entire series, along with Truthful Square. And on top of all that stuff though, when it comes to the forms of, you know, Atlantis SquarePants special, is the fact that one thing I really did not like about the actual whole thing, when it comes to the entire Atlantis SquarePants special, is the fact that the plot is non-existent, and also the actual, the music in the actual special though is so bad. Like, literally the worst aspect of the forms of Atlantis SquarePants in my opinion, because some of them are actually cheesy, some of them are corny, and on top of all that stuff though, they're all over the place. When it comes to likely for certain songs, you're able to actually hear all that stuff. Like, it's like a musical fest. So, yeah, I honestly don't understand why that a lot of people just somehow managed to hate that special. Well, as far as Truthful Square goes, well, at least I will say this right now, I think I honestly prefer the video game story adaptation when it comes to Truthful Square, because it focuses in the past memories and stuff like that. So at the very least that's something to behold, because obviously Truthful Square was meant to be able to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the SpongeBob cartoon show, ever since back in the old days in 1999, and then the 10th anniversary roll around in 2009 where they managed to release Truthful Square. However though, fans, including myself, are very disappointed with this particular special, and especially noticeable because there are a number of problems with it. Like, first of all, some of the actual flashback sequence just somewhat maked up, so it's nothing, so it's like nonsensical. And on top of all that stuff though, the story itself is just nothing predictably that special. And on top of all that stuff though, the entire place takes place in a fridge rather than just, well, time travel to the past or memories or anything else to be more specific, unlike the video game version that it does manage to handle that a lot better. And on top of all that stuff though, what makes the actual Truthful Square special episode to be a lot of a lackluster experience is the fact that this particular special has a lot, I mean a lot of emphasis of utilizing Patchy the Pirate segments. Like, I understand he's the most iconic thing when it comes to SpongeBob community, but if you try to make it a lot more lengthy than it should be, oh jeez, I have no idea why they managed to make this a lot more lengthy and also a lot longer too. Which, as a result of that kind of stuff though, that's why it essentially just goes like, Can I see the actual interesting parts, please? Can I just, at the very least... Well, no, they obviously bump into a ton of celebrities here and there, like, including, I would say, Pink and stuff like that. Well, then again, it has been donkey's years since I actually remembered. In fact, I vaguely remembered the Truthful Square special season, or the special episode, just because, well, everything else is just, well, unimaginative in my opinion. But it was also the wedding where basically SpongeBob and Sandy get married, but that never happened, because obviously they have become like friends and stuff like that. I can assure you for this point, well, mind you, again, it's been a very long time since I actually seen that episode, despite, you know, how so many negativity has been happening for the sake of the faults of this entire, you know, special as a result. So yeah, I don't think I can probably watch that particular special ever again. I'd much rather watch the first movie along with Sponge Out of Water. Well, at least I found the second film is okay. Well, I think the first film to me though is honestly kind of my nostalgia, at least as far as I can tell. Well, despite the fact that the actual box office doesn't usually go in the highest expectations, because thanks to forms of, well, the Harry Potter film came out, which is of course The Prisoner of the Azkaban, did manage to roll around, and that box office did manage to do quite well. So, either way though, that's just for my personal preference anyway, and also I may be biased when it comes to other things worth noting for, so anyways, while this is going on, recently we actually got ourselves some new stuff, thanks to the forms of the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the release of Final Fantasy VII, the most iconic PlayStation game of all time, and also the most important Final Fantasy game of all time. Just because of how the fact that, well, that game has a lot of emphasis on, well, you know what I mean, a lot of, like, interesting stories, as well as side quests, and the most important characters in terms of Final Fantasy series, all things considered, Cloud, and the most, dastardly villains of all time, which is, of course, Sephiroth. So, and, speaking of which, though, is the fact that we actually got ourselves some, wow, there's quite a few stuff they actually got, thanks to the forms of the announcements from the likes of, oh, I somehow got stuck. Let's just kill ourselves anyway, so just in case we'll let the cutscene load up, and then we cut back into our camera perspective, and then basically I'll just take as a death or something like that. So, that was a bit of embarrassing, but regardless of such though, yeah, let's talk about the forms of the actual the Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary celebration presentation they've got. Well, despite the fact that it does manage to take place about during at some point in the middle of June, which I suppose I forgot to mention about during the course of this Let's Play so far, along with the forms of Maxi for Super Mario Sunshine and the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and Pac-Man has also forgot to mention about that during the course of Wii Party and stuff like that. First off, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate is now coming to PC, specifically PC Steam. Well, assuming about the fact that it might only run at 4K, so at the very least that you're not out of luck when it comes to able to actually, hopefully, God forbid, try to get the PlayStation 5. Well, if you guys able to actually become a PC gamer, luckily for you, you can now able to actually finally get a chance to get, you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate onto your PC, which is always fantastic for those who are the PC gamers out there. And for the release date of that, it came out just recently, so because of this though, yeah, I hope you guys are able to enjoy that game at long last for PC owners. So that's actually super top notch and everything, which also applies onto, you know, Spider-Man Remastered coming to the PC as well. So because of this though, that's, well, despite the fact that the thing isn't exactly come out yet, until specifically, you know, sometime in this August. So, yeah, that begs the question for this point. And another thing they did celebrate it is the forms of one of those iOS games, or to be more specifically, iPhones or Android phones. And that game will have to be Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. So, yeah, I've never heard of that game before, actually, so yeah, that's sure it's something. And I do apologize for that particular door ring bell that you hear for about briefly. That's only mainly because I think Silver was actually having a lot of issues with, well, his, you know, psychokinesis abilities and stuff like that, and I think Mighty just somehow managed able to grab the door for him, so... And I think it also got like a closed beta test during at some point in this year, which kind of does the same thing for the likes of the forms of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link for the iOS devices, which, that reminds me, between those two things, they're actually pretty exciting when it comes to likely for Kingdom Hearts, along with Final Fantasy VII and stuff like that, when it comes to, like, well, seriously, Final Fantasy VII is actually the most popular Final Fantasy game ever, which is pretty obvious because of the iconic villain and also the most iconic character you're able to play as. And, yeah, that basically summarized as such. And good thing we did manage to able to solve this particular puzzle, so that way we can now able to move on. So... anyways, let's talk to Mr. Krabs quickly.
Well done, son. Next time I need to round up customers for the Krusty Krab, I'll give you a call.
Why would the customers want to be made round?
You're a strange one, you are, Patrick.
Well, because it's totally obvious, because the journey at some point in, I would say in Season 4, that he starts to get a lot more downhill when it comes to his stupid behavior. I think the worst case scenario was actually the card episode, because you guys remember that episode? Because I surely do, because of how stupid the actual character development Patrick was during that episode, because he was try to trust SpongeBob alike, but somehow that he's almost gonna destroy the card, and that pretty much breaks my heart. Especially noticeable, I felt incredibly bad for SpongeBob, so... anyway, so we've met up with Barnacle Boy ever since in, well, the last time we saw him was actually in Mermaid Lair. So we'll switch over to... excuse me, Jellyfish? How dare you sting me? How dare you?
I could really use your help if you had some time to spare.
Sure, Barnacle Boy, what do you need?
I'm trying to recover my lost energy crystals that power my new secret superhero power. It seems the robots have found my supply and have hidden them in this cave.
Secret superhero power? Oh, what's it do? What's it do? What's it do?
If I told you, it wouldn't be a secret, would it? Just trust me. It's worth finding these crystals. I'd go searching myself, but my bunions are acting up today.
Well, then you rest those super bones of yours. I'll get searching for these crystals.
Alright, so no need to find all of these crystals to obtain, which it kind of reminds me of Crash Bandicoot, where basically, you know, Dr. Neo Cortex really wants to force to let Crash Bandicoot trying to get the powerful crystals. So yeah, it does reminds me of that. Except rather than going through tougher like platforming segments here and there, so instead we're able to actually collecting like only 5 of these things. Oh wait, sorry, 6 of these things I should say. Do apologize for that particular commentary, like I said. Well, that's only mainly because I was a little bit tired at this point. So, anyway, so the next thing they did show us when it comes to the forms of the celebration of, you know, Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary celebration event, that is another iOS and Android game is on its way, which appears to be by the forms of Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. Crisis Core is going to be on its way. And same applies to the forms of Season 3 and North America tournament updates and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's something, I guess. And the next thing they did show us is the forms of, I would say, a remake of the PSP game, which appears to be by the forms of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. And what's great about this particular remake is the fact that this is obviously based off from the only exclusive PSP game where you play as Zack, which I don't think I remember Zack as a character at first, but then the only thing I actually started to introduce Zack was actually a brief appearance from the likes of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, when if you're trying to able to traverse into Olympus Coliseum, which it doesn't matter what characters you be using, either Terra, Aqua, or Ventus for that matter, so even then though, that's why I've managed able to start to introduce to Zack on my life, so that's pretty something I guess. And from what I've seen the gameplay footage, I'm pretty sure it plays out exactly like the PSP game, except that the visuals looks much nicer. And yeah, on top of all that stuff though, in addition to able to releasing sometime in this year, in this winter I should say, but not only that, it also receives multi-platforms, much like the forms of how it does it on Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory back in 2 years ago. Like, it's going to be releasing on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, much like the forms of how it does it in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and also Xbox Series X and Series S, Xbox One, PC Steam, and, none other than, Nintendo Switch. So, apparently, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is getting a Switch release. So, Naughty White, they just somehow managed to... Excuse me, Jellyfish? Did you stung me again while I'm at the bus stop? Seriously, what's wrong with you? Although, to be fair though, I'm probably not going to get myself exploded or anything. And I apologize for that ringtone right there, because I'm pretty sure Mighty sent me a message and stuff like that saying that, well, he was desperately hungry for its, well, I would say like a cucumber that he wants the most. But either way though, let's just see how this goes basically. So, anyway, so, yeah, it's actually interesting when that game gets its Switch release, because unlike Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's it's only exclusive to Sony platforms, specifically PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 with some additional new features and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm guessing that's that. And the final thing they show us is the forms of a sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which appears to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is more of a, well, it's suffice to say, I think this is more accurately the second part in terms of the forms of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So people usually call it Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, because I'm pretty sure the plot takes place after the events of when the first remake game has been ended. And as a result of that kind of stuff though, I'm thinking that particular game is going to be coming out exclusively to the PlayStation 5. Much like the forms of Spider-Man 2 from the Insomniac games and stuff like that, and I think, potentially speaking, I get the feeling that it might also apply onto Kingdom Hearts 4, for the sake of the forms of next generation of consoles. So, because, well, I just get a strong sense of feeling with that prediction, because, well, you know what I mean, if you're following through our playthroughs for certain, well, I don't know what you would call it, because it's been such a long while since I actually done some of my commentary, you know, but, yeah, and I think for that particular Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth game is going to be releasing next year in 2023, along with the forms of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, so either way though, there are some things that most people are looking forward to, because, well, you know what I mean, because certain games are massive enough as it is, so... Oh jeez, this area is going to be filled to the brim with you able to utilizing a lot of Tiki heads most of the time. And also it requires you to able to go for a lot of backtracking when it comes to likely not only switching between SpongeBob or Patrick, but also if you stumble across certain switches that's been blocked, then it also means is the fact that we have to able to actually just go back a little bit, or in some cases backtrack it for a bit, and then it's just... That's the reason why a lot of people seem to despise this world so much, just because it requires so much of backtracking. So because of this though, yeah, no wonder why a lot of people seem to able to do not care about this world. Although, thankfully, whenever we get to the Flying Dutchman's graveyard, then it shouldn't be too bad. So, because yeah, as a result of that kind of stuff though, I think that's as far as I can try to discuss upon. So, yeah, and that pretty much summarized the forms of the Final Fantasy VII, 25th anniversary presentation, and what do I think about it overall? It's actually pretty good. Like, I can totally see why a lot of people seem to be super excited about the forms of the second part, for the sake of the forms of Final Fantasy VII, or should I say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, or should most people attempt to call it Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, because of, you know, the continuation of the story. And, yeah, it seems all promising, which also applies onto Kingdom Hearts 4, despite the fact that we haven't exactly got the release date for Kingdom Hearts 4 yet. Well, my guess it will probably be on 2024, if depending on the forms of the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X for Xbox might actually doing so well. Well, despite the fact that it still so far has the lowest sales numbers at the moment, just because of shortages of those, you know, sold out moments here and there. Well, despite the fact that I haven't exactly looked upon that much of those sales numbers when it comes to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, so I do apologize for that. So, and I think we've only got 2 more campers left, so, and once that's been done, then we can pretty much get able to move on to the next world. So, well, at the same time though, we still need able to try to go after more of those Patrick socks, and, well, you know what I mean. Oh, and another thing I would like to mention about this as well, this is technically my second attempt for this recording session. Nothing to do with the forms of the capture footage or anything, but it's more accurately the commentary itself, because I've no idea why that I somehow managed to running out of ideas for able to try to mention something like this. And on top of all that stuff though, it's just the fact that, well, unfortunately though, much like in any other like HD quality of video capture recordings, that for some stupid reason is the fact that the actual footage keeps on lagging most of the time again. So yeah, it's very annoyingly consistent because, well, sometimes I'm just getting so sick of the forms of those stupid lag here and there. Well, understandably so, but it's just too much to work with, so at least as far as I'm trying to concern with that stuff. So anyways, let's go ahead and carry this tiki stone here to, well, put that right in here, and I think that basically just allows me to, well, get up there somehow. But still, it requires so much of backtracking at this point, which makes things a lot more longer than the forms of how it does it on any other worlds, because, well, you know what I mean, because of how the fact that, well, usually in certain other worlds, that it doesn't take that long whenever I do manage to experience some of these worlds, specifically in Mermaid Lair and Sand Mountain, depending on the forms of getting used to with the controls and physics and what have you. But I think I pretty much summarized that such. So I think suffice to say for this point, guys, is the fact that we're going to have to end off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. That is the fact that we're basically just going to have to finishing up with the forms of Kelp Forest, and eventually we'll move on to Flying Dutchman's Graveyard. So hopefully it should make things a bit faster. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. Later, fellas.